topics, I highlighted the importance of understanding what your users need and also how you go about finding the types of information you need to find. Let's talk about how you actually access these magical users. The approach you take will be very different. Imagine you were designing an intranet. Now, intranet is an internal website that organizations typically have that allows them to be able to access the resources and information they need to be able to perform their task. Now, some organizations are about 30,000 staff strong, and they may have an intranet that has about 10,000 pages. The approach you take in terms of accessing those users will be very different compared to a website or a system that's aimed at 2 people using it on an infrequent basis. The reason intranet might be easier is because you've got access to staff internally. You've got their contact details, you know their managers, you know their departments, so you can actually access them much easier. However, they may have logistical issues because they might be busy, they might have deadlines. Likewise, for a smaller number of people, however, being an external, access might be more difficult. For internal people, you typically have to recruit. Now, there's certain ways you can do that, and I'm going to talk to you about them right now. You might actually recruit a market research organization to actually recruit on your behalf. If you know the contact details of the users that you want, you might actually be able to pick up the phone and talk to them. You might also be able to access your users if they're all in a common space, for example, university students within a campus. So you might be able to simply go and walk up to these students with a clipboard and actually recruit them on the spot. Some organizations also have a database of their customers, and this is a very crude drawing of a database. Imagine it's a hard drive. Some organizations have this information and they might be able to actually lend you that information if they've been given consent by the customer, and you can actually access the users that way. And finally, some companies are actually happy to advertise on their website. So they might have a website, and on the website, they might actually have an incentive for the customers who are using that site to be able to contact them and actually participate in market research. Now, when you actually recruit your users, you actually need to provide them an incentive. So what could be an incentive? You might actually give them cash. You might give them a voucher for a cinema or online retail store. But at the same time, it's also important to note, depending on who your users are, the amount of incentive you give them will be different. For example, a university student probably needs less money or less of a voucher to be enticed to participate than someone like a general practitioner, a doctor or a lawyer, where time is of the essence. Now, whichever approach you take when trying to access your users, the most important piece of document you need is a recruitment brief. In a recruitment brief, you need to outline the background for the project, the objectives for the project, the activities you plan to run with users, how many of them. You need to define when the activity is going to take place, how you're going to go about running those activities. You obviously have to give them your contact details should there be any issues, especially around access, for example, parking or after hour security. You also need to be able to define who you don't want to be recruited, because that's just as important as the right people that you need. Now, you also need to understand you're not always going to get the right person coming through the door. People just sometimes lie because they want the incentive. So it's really important for you to screen, i.e. ask the sort of questions that you ask during the recruitment process to make sure the right person has walked through the door. In the next topic, I'm actually going to go through on a high level some of the techniques you can apply to actually find out the needs of your users.